Bruce, maybe you could talk a little about, first of all, a few things we talked about in the first discussion. Since this is a new crowd, what's the actual size of these pieces that we're looking at on this big screen?
Anywhere from about a half-inch tall or less up till, I don't know, bigger sizes, I can't remember. They get, fairly big.
Why do you work with such small pieces? What's the advantage for you?
Okay, I was hoping you'd have some fresh questions.
Well, I thought just a few of the basics they would, these people weren't here for the first. I definitely have a lot of new fresh questions, but I think just to give them an idea.
Okay, it's if you're working on it with really small but detailed things, then you can get a lot more of them into a tiny space. And like if you're animating in a set this big, you can get 100 little figures in there, and if they're all a half-inch tall, they'll fit in that space. But if you want to use figures that are this big, you need a space bigger than you can even reach all of those figures. And so it balances out. You sacrifice detail in order to save space, or the other way around, or I don't know. I'm kind of dyslexic. I have a hard time describing these things.
Well, Frank just credited you as clay, cardboard, and line animation. What actually else are you using? What's some of the other materials we saw up there?
Well, there's Vaseline, there's wax, tinfoil. I don't know, you could probably gather up dust balls off of under the bed and use those. Or cotton makes good smoke. Wax, if you have a big pane of glass, which is lit from underneath, and you pour a layer of red wax on that glass, and have all your light coming from underneath, none from above, then it looks like it's glowing from within, like it's red hot lava, and you can swirl that around and do some things with it, and the fact that it's hot, the light you're using for illumination is going to keep that wax warm enough that you can continue animating it.
So could you describe like an average day when you were animating some of this stuff? Like, how many hours did you work in one day? How much footage did you shoot? Did you take breaks, or
that barroom scene stuff, I never kept track of hours or anything. I just tried to work as much as I could, 7 days a week. And well, not in that period, but later on, and by about 1991, I quit watching TV because it was, the ads were killing me. And it was just neurotic, having to jump up from what I'm doing to run and turn the channel to get rid of some terrible ad. And then all the stupid things they had on as bumpers on the shows, which are basically just to take up screen time and deprive us of real information. That I gave up on TV, and let me get back to what I was saying. In the early 70s, when I was doing that barroom scene, my main concern was how to keep from getting a headache. And I was getting these bad eye aches sometimes from the work. Probably bad nutrition or something. But I don't know. I was just pouring myself into it, and even taking a lot of derision from a friend of mine for the goony little scene I was animating. That guy had some problems with it going. I'll catch up with him someday.
Bruce, what elements of your filmmaking style or process has changed over the years, and what have remained the same? Have you noticed any in particular?
I'm sorry, but that question went way over my head.
You know, like, how many years you've been animating?
Well, since '64, that's when I started, but I went in the service for 3 years. In '66, when I got out in '69, I went back to animating, and well, it's been that long.
Right. So, what elements of your filmmaking have changed? Any? Have you changed anything in your process over those years, or has it pretty much remained the same? Or
well, I'm hoping I can improve my technique and output every day, but that's hard to accomplish. I'm sure if I was working with a real studio that had production managers and line producers and all that kind of stuff, I think and some people working for me, I think I could produce a whole lot more.
right. So we'll open it up. If anyone has any questions or comments, go ahead.
Is any of the violence in your animation born out of any experience in Vietnam?
No. I had it pretty easy when I was over there. And I mean, I think that the guys who actually did have to face real combat, or a lot of them are probably quiet about it because they don't. I mean, you can tell a fake because the real ones. I mean, people who claim they were doing something heroic or whatever, even some famous actors and people play that game, claiming they were a Navy SEAL or something. The closest I came to combat was one day walking down the company road. There was a big firefight going on across the river, and some stray rounds were strafing all over the base, and I saw some go by pretty close because it was, the humidity was just right that you could see like a kind of a vapor trail behind these bullets, and they were right over here about 6 feet away, and I just ran and got behind something real quick because even though you've never seen it before in your life, you know what it is instantly, and it was very interesting to look at because I'm always into visual things, but it was not the type of thing that you want to stand there and